We have Muswamba Mwamba here from Dallas. He's with the City of Dallas Health Department, and I think he has some very interesting stories to share with us.
How was lunch? Good? Mine too. I swallow fast so I can speak slowly. Okay, my name is Muswamba. I'm going to tell you my story. I'm fine, I'm on? Okay. I'll tell you my story, and then I want you to know me, so when you meet another African, you may relate. That's fair enough? You will never meet all the immigrants, but I represent a bunch of them. How many people were not born in America? 1, 2, only 3. Everybody was born in Oklahoma here? Wow. All right. This is my journey from Congo to Dallas. Now, I didn't get a direct flight. I went many places. 3 continents, 13 cities before I get to Dallas. Why? I don't know, because my father decided so. So this is Congo. There is a 50 country in Africa. I have to explain that to some people, because when I say I'm from Congo, they're like, the movie? I'm like, okay. And when I say, no, you're from Africa, I'm like, I'm from Congo. There is a 50 country in Africa. They're like, for real? I'm like, yeah. Congo is one of them. It's the 3rd largest country in my continent, and is the 3rd of United States. So Congo is not a small country. When you look at the globe, you think, yeah, Congo is not. Congo is not a small country. So I grew up, I was born in Lubumbashi. I grew up in Lubumbashi. That's the region of Katanga. Katanga is very important in the world history, because that's why the United States got the uranium in 1945 to win the war. It was right there in New Jersey when they needed to beat the Soviet, I guess. So that place was, after the Second World War, people started fighting for that location. We had a lot of war, people come, and then anyway, they're still fighting now in Congo. There's always, we have 12 neighbors, so they want a piece of the cake. And anyway, it's Congo. You want to know Congo? It's amazing. We have all the resources you can think of. All your cell phone are made with something that come from Congo, right there in the war zone, and you wonder why there is a war zone. I don't know. I won't go to politics. Anyway, I was born in Katanga, but I'm originally from the Kasai. And there is a reason why I show you that, because Africa is very different. So when somebody from my country see me and hear my name, he knows where I'm from. It doesn't matter where I grew up, but you know my ethnic group. So this is my family before I was born. So I wish I was the only child, but it never happened. So the gentleman in black is my father. My father is the 1st generation of pediatrician in my country. My country became independent in 1960, and there was only one person who graduated from university in 1960. So when we became independent, all the bright minds say, we have to go to medical school. So it was about to be priest because they were making them to go to seminar. And all of a sudden they say, okay, I'm going to be a doctor. So he was a pediatrician, 1st generation. Those are his younger brother. One is accountant, journalist, and an artist. Those are my 5 brothers that were waiting for me. And 2 of them are twins, the one that they carry. So having a twins in my country is very special. So the one that followed twins will have a special name. So before even I was conceived, my name was Muswamba, because it's the name that is given to the one who followed twins. And it means the one who love, the beloved one. So I love you all. I love you first. And when I came, I started running very fast. By 8 months I was walking, I tried to chase my brothers. And since we were in the breastfeeding conference, I asked my mom how long I breastfed. She said 13 months. So I make her come here. So I told her that I work in breastfeeding. So I asked her again, how long you breastfed me? Oh, I think 18 months. And then I'm like, okay. A few weeks later, I asked her, but how long I breastfeed really? Oh, maybe 2 years. I'm like, yeah, she's lying because she wants to. But I said 13 months because that was the first answer. And whenever I show this picture, they always say, wow. Nobody say wow here. What's wrong with Oklahoma? They like baby pictures. Now, that's how we look in 73. I was born in Lubumbashi, but that's Kipushi. And you see all the boys. And now there is 7 boys, no girls. But my father is not a quitter. So my first sister came in 73. Surrounded by 7 boys. That's very interesting. That's me there. I was 4 years old. Healthy like you can think of. And this is another city. This is Kambov. I don't know if you're noticing, but I already live in 3 cities. Born in Lubumbashi, live in Kipushi, now in Kambov. I don't know why. But remember, my father was the first physician in that company. So he was a big shot. He had all the money, so you have to go everywhere. So every time they need him, they move him so he can train younger physicians. I was raised as a Catholic. This is high school, I guess, a grammar school. My first communion. If you look there, you don't see it, but I was full of Holy Ghost. It became very nice. I was saved. And you can see with my sisters. This is in my country, another city, so I'm back to Lubumbashi now. And you will say, why there's so many white people in this picture? Yeah, because my father was not poor man, so he put us in a very expensive school, and there was a school of white people in my country. So I was already a minority in my country. So we're talking about minority, right? We're talking about ethnicity, right? So I was already a minority in my classroom there because I was in an all-white school. All white, but not all white, but I was among the minority. So this is my family when I grew up. My father had a white hair. I want you to look at my father very well because he was a little bit plump. Because in my country, if you're rich, you have to be plump, a little bit fat. When my mom came, she looked at my wife, she said, why is my son like that? You need to eat more. Because in Congo, if you're rich, it's a symbol of status to be a little bit heavy. Not like Obama, but a little bit more heavy than Obama. I'm not saying it by accident. We're going to come back to that. So this is my soccer team because we play really football with our feet. I just want to show you that one time I had 6-pack. Now I have one big pack. And that with my brother. The guy I'm leaning on is my brother. And this is my last year, graduation. I will be finishing my high school, and my brother is right there. We were in the same class. This is my younger brother. He was smarter than me, so he catch up to me. He's a doctor also, he's a physician. So we graduate, and then they say, okay, my father was happy. Number 6 and number 7 are graduating, so we have to quit my house. So it's like goodbye. So as soon as we graduate, they send us to 2,000 kilometers to Kinshasa. Kinshasa is the capital city. Why? Because at that time they had a fight with Belgium and they closed all the embassy, so I have to go to Kinshasa. 2,000 kilometers, maybe 1,000 miles and something to get a visa. And then I went to Belgium. How many cities so far? Who's following? No, nobody's counting. Now I'm in Belgium. I went there because my father said you have to go in the best school, get a better education, and be like me, a doctor too. But I could not be a doctor because my younger brother wanted to be a doctor like his father. They have the same name. So I want to be original, so I'm going to say, I'll study something different. I'm studying agriculture engineering. So I put my father out of business because if those kids who are hungry in Africa, if I can provide them with food, my father won't have a job because one of the problems with pediatrician in my country was not really the kids were sick. it was that they were malnourished. And they were malnourished because of food access. So I said, if we find a way to produce food, maybe my father won't be that busy. Huh. Yeah, right. All right. Belgium also, I live in many cities in Belgium, like 4. Now, Belgium is very tiny. It's 80 times smaller than Congo. So I know some people want to say Belgium, they think it's big now. Belgium is very small. You cross it in 2 hours. But it's not the smallest country in Europe. There is some country you can really run and cross it. Now, in Belgium, there is 2 levels. There is a French-speaking part and a Dutch-speaking part. I was in the French-speaking part. And I went to this school, which is the Catholic University of Louvain. Do you see when it was founded? So those are schools that they don't play with you. I mean, you have to study, and then you have to study by heart. They don't ask you to do a multiple choice. You have to reproduce. You have to know by heart. I mean, Harvard was 17th century. This is 13th century, 15th. So that's where I went to school, but I went in the French-speaking part because it was in Leuven, and they decided the fight between the French-speaking and then Dutch-speaking, the split. So they went to create another one in Louvain-la-Neuve, means Leuven the New. Leuven means living. So I was there for 5 years. I earned 2 degrees there. I had an agriculture engineering degree, and I had a master in biochemistry of human nutrition. Because even though I don't do medical school, I want to stay close to food, to humans. So I do a biochemistry to understand how food goes inside and what it does to you. My chicken I ate became my hair. I want to know why. That's why I study. Now, I show that picture because that plant that I got in 92 grew taller than me in 3 years. So I look alike, but actually I'm 3 years older than. And I finished. This is the day before my thesis, and then this is the day for my thesis. You can how I'm smiling. I was very happy, and then something is very different here. When you graduate, you always have this graduation ceremony. No, we sign our diploma before we get them. Here, they hand them already signed. America is very organized. So I have to sign them, send them back, everybody sign, and they're going to ship it to me. I want to show this picture of this professor because that's my best professor. I asked him what I'm going to do. I graduate. Now, I graduate among the first one in my group. All my friends went to med school, which is 7 years. This was like, oh, what am I going to do? I study all these things. They never prepare me that I'm going to work one day. You see, America is beautiful because when you go to school, they say you will work. They kind of connect with you with the industry. In Belgium, I was just smart here, but I never knew they're going to be employed. So I asked him what I'm going to do. He said, don't stay here. I'm like, why not? I'm like, but you already got your degree. Go somewhere else where you can learn another language or something. So he say, I'm like, where? I'm like, okay. So he gave me an idea. His friend, who was in Ghent, this Dutch-speaking part. I'm like, I don't speak Dutch. I'm like, you can learn in English. So I went. Now, I want you to show the group of my class over there. I'm the only black guy, again. Right? But I'm not the only male. Do you see that? Okay. And I'm not saying by accident. Just listen to me. So I'm at Ghent University. I learned another master there in food science and technology. And then I finish and I start my doctorate. And then I'm like, okay. But the law in Belgium are very different, immigration law. European country, it doesn't matter if you're born there or if even they give you citizenship. You are not really a Belgian. They keep asking you where you're from. And that's very important. Why? Because I never thought of who I was until I was away from my country. I was away from home, so they ask you, who are you, why you have your name. I never thought about that, because where I come from, everybody look alike. All of a sudden, I ask you, why are you different? Why you speak that language? Why you have that accent? I start thinking, why? So my talk here, I'm opening up to you, so you start thinking about why I am who I am, why I'm thinking that way. So in Ghent, I graduate, of course, with my brother there, eating cake. Too much schooling in my head, I guess. And then, now, where do you think somebody who's looking at a map of the United States, somebody who have option to come to the United States will go? I know it's not Oklahoma, but where do you think it's going to go? Of course, I go to New York City. Duh, skyscraper and girls, you know. So I come to New York City, and the only thing I know is to study. So I'm like, okay, I'm going to go back to school. I never work. I didn't need to work. Where do you think I'm going to go? School again. Oh, I didn't show you that. Yeah. I live in New York City, in Washington, and Kingston between those, from 97 to 2003. So what I was doing there is I went to Columbia because they say, oh, immigrant can go to Columbia. I'm like, really? Watch me. Oh, it's expensive. I'm like, I go. So I go, and they say, oh, you want to do a doctorate? Don't talk to me at admission. Go talk to a professor. I go talk to a professor. They say, oh, yeah, you can come tomorrow. I'm like, huh? Do you want me to do an exam, TOEFL? And I'm like, you speak English? I'm like, yeah, but you don't know my English. Because my English, I learn English by reading. So when I landed to GFK, they told me, be careful with American. When they approach you, be careful. So this guy is approaching me at the airport, looking at my luggage. Look at me like, hey, what's up? I'm like, what's up? What is that? I don't know. I'm like, what's up? I'm thinking, I'm opening my library here. What's up? So the only thing I can come up with was, thank you. Because nobody in Belgium told me about what's up. Take it easy. Thank you. So I went to Columbia, and the professor got me there. He asked me, you black? I'm like, oh, I think I was born black. I said, okay. I have a scholarship for you. I'm like, okay, take it. So I got scholarship. I started my doctorate in nutrition education. I want to know, is the mood affect your food choices or the food choices affect your mood? That was my thesis. And then after years, he said, now you do like everybody. Get a loan. What is that? So I got a loan, and I calculate $18,000 one trimester. In 99, the tuition, one credit was $800. I started calculating, I'm like, when I graduate, I'll be so broke. I mean, when I finished in Belgium, I was zero. Because Belgium pay 90%, the government pay 90% of your tuition, and then you pay the rest. Here, I was like, this is a lot of money. I calculate, but that was the mistake, because I never met you. You could explain me that you do that. I thought they were trying to get me in debt. But Americans run on debt, right? It's good to have debt. So you have to finish and then pay back. So while I was doing my doctorate, I met my boss, who was doing a doctorate. She was a director at WIC. She said, you can come from WIC. You have nutrition background, biochemistry background. I was impressing the professor, by the way, because I was doing a class of chemistry, reading with me. I was like, oh, no, tell the professor his thesis. Like, oh, my God, you're smart. I'm like, go. So she said, I hire you. So I got a job at WIC. What is WIC? Women, infant, and children. Where is the man? I'm the only man again there. I'm like, why is nutrition for ladies in America? Yeah, okay. While I was in WIC, look at that baby. They were not talking about breastfeeding in 99. I think it was 2001. It was more formula. I started studying formula. I was impressed with the way they do formula, especially those hydrolyzed ones. But something I noticed was when mom is nursing, they don't come often. They come once and then they leave. They come after 1 year certification. The one who are nursing, they come, they get alimentum, they come, they change to Ella Care, they come, they change to that. I'm like, what are you going to do with a 1 month old constipated? I don't know. 1 month old can get laxative. But the breastfeeding one were fine. I'm like, oh, that's interesting. So I keep going. I'm like, okay, let's think about, is my route typical or not? So we're going to talk about immigrant. Do you know that the fastest growing group of immigrants are black African immigrants? Look at the trend. Now, every time I read the NIS, the National Survey data from the government, I always see African American. But when I read what characterizes African American, I don't see myself in there. Well, why they put all the black together? Because I behave very differently than African American because of my story. When you go to Southeast or South, why black are always in the South area anyway? Anyway, when you go to South Chicago, South Washington, South Dallas, they're there, the brothers. Didn't go to Belgium, didn't go to Colombia. So my route was not normal. So I was wondering if I'm the only African who do that. So let's look at some data here. So look at the trend of, we're going to talk about African immigrant, not all the immigrants. So we're going to compare all the African immigrants to all the immigrants and see if there is something special. All right, look at the numbers. Double in 10 years. There is a reason, there is a law behind it, because in the 60s when people were fighting for the freedom, Martin Luther King and so on, the law was not the same for African American. African could not migrate in America. Enfin, it's politics. Double in 10 years. This is New York City. Look at the numbers. In 20 years, look at the numbers. 500,000 of African immigrants in New York City. That's why I went to New York City. I took a cab. They don't speak English. They speak everything but English, but they can know the numbers. You just say 82 on Broadway, you got it. Been to New York City? Your cab driver is not English-speaking, born here, American. Where do they come from? Every time some African people ask me, are you from Nigeria? Why do you think they ask me that? Look at the numbers. The more immigrants from the African continent come from Nigeria, and then from Ethiopia, and then from Egypt and Ghana. Now, Ethiopia is funny because Ethiopia, they don't speak English in Ethiopia. They speak Amharic. But the other three countries, they speak English, so come to America, it's not easy. It's easy for them because they don't have to learn language like me. And there they are, Nigeria, Egypt, Ghana, Kenya. They're all English-speaking countries. Actually, Kenya have done so good that they've even had a president. Obama is Kenyan because you are from where your father's from. Doesn't matter your citizenship, right? I'm American now, but I'm Congolese. You understand where I'm coming from, right? But I can't be a president. I wasn't born here. I cannot show you my birth certificate. Now, when they come, they don't come to Oklahoma. They do like me. They look at the map. They say, Oklahoma is in the middle. I want to go close to the water. So those are the regions they come from. Now, that country there, it's strange. I was wondering why they don't go in California. I don't know what state is that. What state is that besides California? Why do they go to Nevada? For game? Anyway, those are the ones that America bring here. There are people like me who come voluntary, and there were people who come here because of war, like Somalian. They brought here in bunch because of the country. They are refugees. There's a program, they bring them a certain location. They don't choose where they go. And they love Texas. They forget about Oklahoma. Now, this is something I want to tell you. I want you to pay attention to this one. Because, like I told you, I'm telling my story, so you know I'm not very typical. This is the story of many Africans. Now, look at what I circle. Among all immigrants, when you put all immigrants together, the African immigrants are the most educated across the board. I know you know of Indian physician, right? But if you look at degree, bachelor degree, compared to all the foreign, the African are come to America more very educated. Now, you'll say, nah, not everybody. Okay, Somalia. Why is Somalia not educated? Because Somalian didn't come voluntary. Somalia came because of Mogadishu war, so they send them. And when they send them to America, they go to one particular place. Where? Minnesota. There you go. I got to Minnesota one day, and then I'm walking, looking at me like, who are you, man? I'm like, I feel bizarre. I didn't fit. I was discriminated against. Now, look at these 3 countries. I told you one is Nigeria. Nigerian, Egyptian, and South African. When they come to the United States, they are very educated compared to the majority of immigrants. So my situation is not exceptional. I came here, I had already 2 masters, right? But my first job was trying to sell cafe. You know, like and my boss was younger than me, she was 24. But that was my first job. They pay me $5 an hour in New York City. And I calculate when the money came, I'm like, 5, it's easy to manage. If you work 20 hours, you have the math, right? So I'm expecting $100. My money comes was $70. I'm like, this lady's not smart. She can calculate $5 an hour. So I read again this check and this written FICA. I'm like, what's FICA? I say, it's there in Washington. You have to, it's everywhere, everything. Oh, okay, I found FICA. I didn't like that brother. Anyway. So African immigrants are among the most educated. But if you look at different data also, they are also the least paid. Because, like I told you, the education system that came from Europe is to make you a beautiful mind, not necessarily an entrepreneur mind. I never thought about getting my own job, my own business. I thought that I would study and then somebody will hire me. That's how we are programmed. That's why I asked my professor what I'm going to do with all this degree I got. That's why they don't negotiate. And then also Africans are very grateful. If you give him something, I'm happy. My second job was $7. I moved from 5 to 7. But that person knew I was doing a PhD at Columbia. So they started having free nutrition education and free things, and they knew I was last, but I did a good job. I did a very good job. Now, when they come, what do they stay? I already showed you that. Now, if you look at the orange are people from Nigeria. You're going to see that they're on the south. You mentioned Somalia. They're in sample. You said the purple one. So you don't, when you see in the south, that's what they ask me if I'm Nigerian, because most of the Nigerians are in the south. But if I was maybe in the New York area, they won't ask if I'm from Egypt, because Egypt are more Semitic. They're not black. They are black, but they're not black. I mean, how can I say that? How can I be politically correct? See, in my country, there is black, there is white, and in between, they have a name too, right? Here, there's black and there's white. If you have a one drop, I mean, Obama's mother is white, so it cannot be a black person. Does it make sense? So this is a social construct. If Obama was in Congo, he won't be a black, he will be a mulatto. If he was in Brazil, does it make sense? But in America, it's a one-drop rule. So it's black, I like it. Hey, fine with me. If I marry you, sorry, your kids will be black. Now, the reason I'm saying that, there is some area, this is public health, right? There is some area where you don't want to mix them together, because there is some area, 20% of immigrants are from Africa. If you go to Minnesota, 20% of all the immigrants in Minnesota are African. That's a lot of people. You cannot say, let's lump them together as African, as a minority or African American. They are not, because when you start having 20% of people who are from the same area, you have to change your technique. You have to change the way you approach them. You have to maybe learn the way they eat, the way they operate. Look at North Dakota, 20%. Who want to go to North Dakota anyway? I don't even know where it is. I studied that, but I don't know where it is. I know it's north over there. All right. So I keep moving. Now I was in New York, and then two things happened in New York. I was at Columbia. I was the only black guy in the class. I was the only male. And Columbia is in Harlem. I was like, it doesn't make sense. How come this Columbia University is in Harlem and there's no black in the school? I started understanding disparity. Intuitively, I was just asking questions because I want you to ask yourself questions. I want you to think the way I was thinking. Like, why am I the only one here? Okay. And then I noticed that I was living in the Bronx. When I take the train, there's those little cute girls. I was single. But they all have the sister with them. I'm like, this is a technique they do in my country. When you want to date a girl, she never comes by herself. She brings a sister. Because nothing happened when the sister's there. So I'm trying to approach this girl, and they all have the sister. And then when I start seeing up, they told me, no, that's my daughter. Wait, you can't have a daughter. You look young. I'm like, that's my daughter. I'm like, no, they're trying to get rid of me. And it was true. It was the daughter. That was a paradigm shift. Because when I talk to the sister, they will always ask me how many kids you have. And I always have the answer, I'm not married. They look at me like, oh. I was like, you don't ask a single person how many kids you have. They look like, oh. Yeah, I'm like, okay, if I want to have kids, I can't just go to you and say, let's have kids. It doesn't work that way. In my programming, you get married and you have kids. Oh, African? When you go to school and you have the African people doing a PhD with you, and they're trying to mess with you, don't mess with them, they won't marry you. As soon as they graduate, they will get married. We have friends who are African American who went to school. They all finished. Every single African man or woman got married within 2 or 3 years. The African female, they were female most of the time at the university, they are very good career. They are promoted, company, but it's still single. So they're like, in school you never date anybody. How come? Because it's programmed. When you go to marry somebody, you don't, I come to marry you. I'm not dating you. I want to marry. It's like marry. That's how I met my wife. I told her, okay, I don't date. I marry. So are you ready to get old with me? She's like, I want to be friend. I'm not a friend. I don't ask them to marry me. And then she married me. And then she married me, and then I quit the school, Columbia. I'm like, dead? So she decided that she wants to be the #1 physician. She's a physician. She was an OB/GYN. She wants to study. She was like me, study. So she graduated, and then she went to the #2 school on OB/GYN in the nation. Was in Detroit, Michigan. And then she finished there. She said, I want to go to #1 school for OB/GYN. It was Parkland Hospital. I'm like, this girl wants to go to school. So she did a fellowship at Parkland. I'm like, okay. That's why I went to Dallas, actually. I was following a woman, my wife. So what happened when I went to Dallas? Something happened. That date, very important. Who know what happened in 2005? I know what happened in 95, April now. But what happened in 2005 in December 7th? Take a guess. Take a guess. Take a guess. You're the man. Take a guess, man. Now, I chased my wife for 4 years until she finished. We don't marry if she don't graduate, you know what I mean? I don't marry, so she finished medical school. She went to fellowship. When she finished the residency, now we get married. As soon as she finished, we got married. Okay? Now I'm like, hey, I have one, so no kids now. 2 years marriage, she's like, after 2 years, she's like, I'm ready. Ready for what? I've been waiting all this life to have a woman, and then you want, I'm ready. You women are not serious. So she tell me, okay, I'm ready. I said, don't rush, because I'm very healthy. I'm a nutritionist. I eat my vitamins. I exercise. So when you start, remember my father had 7 before the girl? I'm like, in my family, we are healthy. Take your time. Because when we start, it's going to start fast. She didn't listen. So meanwhile, I'm a public health nutritionist. I became a champion because I still work for WIC. I became champion. In my work, they started noticing me because my clinic was the only clinic with men, because when they hired them, they sent it to me because I was the supervisor. So my clinic was not typical. It was a WIC clinic when we have 3 male. So it was a clinic that was men-friendly. It was also a clinic that was breastfeeding friendly because I've become a champion. Because I was the boss, I told everybody to ask the question, how is breastfeeding going? You don't ask another question. You ask everybody is breastfeeding. So if they didn't, they have 5 people before they see me who will tell them, the receptionist will tell them, you didn't breastfeed? Oh, he's going to get you. They go to the income clerk. Oh, you have the form, different color. It's a purple form. You have a blue form. Oh my God, he's going to get you. They go to the lab person who was a male person and say, oh my God, you don't want to go see him. Find an excuse. Start formulating an excuse because he's going to hit you with breastfeeding. So they are already prepared because the clinic already prepared them. So when they come to me, I was edified so much that even though I say, they take it with gratitude. They say, oh, with grandeur. So my clinic was 2 things. It was not normal because it was male, and it was breastfeeding friendly, men friendly. But I was still very theoretical in my approach. When I talk to mom about the kids, I would just say, just do that, do that, do that. You know, systematic thinking, to many degree. You do that, and then the input is the output. Baby will be fine, it will eat, will grow, will be on the chart. Until I got my own. Those 2, boy and girl, they came, they also could be the only child. My firstborn was the only child for 5 minutes. So I don't relate to you guys who have 1 kid. I start with 2. That boy never opened his mouth. They call it the old man because he was born 4 pounds, no fat. Of course, they give him a pacifier after he never opened his mouth. The girl was in the 3 pounds, put in NICU, but she was very healthy. As soon as my wife came, she grabbed the breast and never let go. So she was let go in the hospital after 3 days. My boy, who was heavier, stayed a little bit longer because they were giving formula and jaundice and so on. So the little one was healthier because he was at the breast. The boy never wanted the breast, so he became mine. And the girl was my wife. But I told her, I cannot give him formula. You have to express the milk. So that's what I did for 3 months because she was at Parkland, and physician can be pregnant. They have to finish the program. So they say, 6 weeks you come back. So I'm like, okay. I work for the city. 12 weeks, man. FMLA. But it didn't stop there. 7 months later, she comes, she says, oh, I'm pregnant again. I'm like, you're the doctor. You're the doctor. How come you're pregnant again? There you go. 16 months, 3 children. I told you I'm going to go fast. So once I did that, I think my work, they noticed that now I have a great combination. I got the knowledge, I got the motivation, and I got the children that bring humility. Now I can start maybe a program by myself. So afterwards, number 4 came. Number 4 came after 4 years because I told her, we have 3 children because they have a mom physician, grandpa physician, uncle physician. They're going to go to college. They don't have a choice. So we're going to wait 4 years. And then we're going to start my cycle again. January 1st. Oh, do you know that David will be 4 this year? I know how to count. What are you asking? You said that. I was like, oh, this woman doesn't forget. And before you know it, number 4 came, and then number 5 followed. Why number 5 followed? Because the number 4 was a good boy. He wants to nurse all the time. And he nursed for 16 months and never let go of my wife. My wife said, no, that boy have to get off my body. I'm like, I'm not competing. You can have him. I have you for the entire life. By 16, 18, they'll be gone. So I'm with you. So they're gone. She went to a OB/GYN conference in California for 1 week, hoping that baby will forget. And then when she came, she ran away, and baby kind of win. And as soon as the baby win, guess what? 1 month later, I was going to another conference, breastfeeding conference. I came back, I said, I think I'm pregnant. I'm like, I was not here. I was in England. I was in England. I was in Carolina. I went like, in 1 week I was in England. I'm like, it's not me. But she came with my nose. So it was like, you don't decide. It's like typical. Look at those, their nose. Like, anyway, those are the Texan. A lot of kids in my house. My mom came, so now I can ask her all the questions about breastfeeding. Now, let's go back to business here. So, breastfeeding information, when you look at the data provided by the US government, since 2000, they start calling this data and they look at the race and the count. We see that there is improvement on initiation rates. But there is still a gap between, let's say, Caucasian or Hispanic and Black. Why? Because with all the information we have, the disparity is a difference that does not to be. It doesn't make sense to me. So how we tap into that? The first thing we can do is maybe separate the African American from the African. If you do that, you can have the rate of African actually is much better, first generation immigrant, actually better than white in many measures. The lady who spoke at noon said that white are healthier compared to African American, but the African immigrant actually are healthier than white when you look at health, blood pressure, all the measures. What happens when they stay? They will mimic the environment because health does not depend on your knowledge. Breastfeeding in the United States it's a medical endeavor. In Congo, it's not. In Congo, they breastfeed because that's what everybody does. Now, if you have an African, you ask the benefits of breastfeeding, they can't tell you. They can't tell you. But they did breastfeed. My wife went to the medical school. She studied all the things she can study. She didn't know anything about breastfeeding. She didn't. I was the one who said, oh, now I'm going to do the hands-on because I never had a hands-on at work. I'll do the hands-on today. Sit down. So why is the disparity? How we can lower that gap? We can lower that gap because if you understand how the African operate, we can use that and apply it on the African American. Because before I open my mouth and before they know their name, they're going to welcome me. Because I look like them, right? Until they find out that I have a funny accent and things like that. But the barrier will be shorter. So if you can learn by listening, by being humble, to African, you can get some tips. Because African American don't breastfeed because they have the information. But it's the social, it's the environment that does not let them do that. Otherwise, a rich country like Norway, they breastfeed 99% of initiation rate. Why? Because public health. Everybody decided we're going to do that. 99% of the time. Now, British people don't breastfeed. You know why. American breastfeed more than British. I don't know why they don't breastfeed. Anyway, so how you lower the gap? So let's look at, when I was in Belgium, it's kind of a social country, I was thinking about equality. Oh, I want the same access as white. I want to do the same thing. But that's not correct, because equality gives you the same thing right? See, the same tool. But it doesn't give you access because we all are not at the same level. We have to talk about equity. So we give everybody the same opportunity to access breastfeeding information. When you go to the doctor, well, as a nurse, when you speak to an African American, in your mind you already programmed that she won't breastfeed. Now, you already programmed. It's in your DNA. You can't do that because you know that. Now, if she breastfeeds, you're like, oh, well, but it will never be the first reaction. I know that because working for WIC, I see those little kids having baby at 18, 19, 15, 12. So when I had 25, 26, for the first time pregnant, I was like, what's wrong with you? I have my baby when I was 35. Nobody asked me a question. I would just wait. But why? Because I was trained a certain way. So when I see a Hispanic 25, 26, first time baby, I freak out. I start reading more. Why didn't have a baby before? Yeah, because I graduate, because I do that. So it's my DNA. We have to change the information. We are very good at producing information, but we are not very good at distributing that information. The information is there. Google it, find it. But Google gives you information, doesn't give you knowledge. You come here to get knowledge. My wife was pregnant, and I Googled everything about C-section. 9 months later, I'm like, sit down here. I'm going to do a C-section on you. I got the information. I got even video on the YouTube. Do you think she will let me? I got the information, but I don't have the knowledge. So equity requires more than, it's not equal thing. Equity requires a different way of thinking to access, to help people access that information. Now you got resources, and you have resources right in the community. African could be resources. Because when they come here, they say, oh, this African-born was fine with my breast, this American-born, they know they don't want it. How do they know they're in America anyway? All right. So because I knew that they give me a responsibility to start a program called the Peer-Led Program. A Peer-Led Program, I'm going to talk about it tomorrow. It's a breastfeeding intervention program targeting men. Yeah, targeting men. And what we do, we equip them to get the right information so they can influence the mother. Because breastfeeding success does not depend on information of the baby on the breast. It's continuing to put the baby at the breast. Now, if you have a coach, and everything you do in life, everybody you admire has a coach. Everybody you admire has a coach. Even Mike Tyson had a coach. And he can beat his coach. But why do you think Mike Tyson need a coach? Why do you think Mike Tyson need a coach? Yeah, the coach reminds you what you already know. We know breastfeeding, but sometimes we need that support, The call for action to support breastfeeding is not about information about breastfeeding, it's to support breastfeeding. We already have the information. This country of Africa, they are succeeding in breastfeeding because of the support. Believe me, when you had a baby in Africa, you are a queen. You don't cook. You don't clean. Your husband doesn't touch you no more. You are surrounded by support to make sure that baby will survive the 2 years. Now they just get so much information, but that's why it was before. I was always wondering how come my father were at least 2 years apart, because we were like every year, my father, pediatrician, he have the science. He was like pew, 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 pew. But his brother were like 2, 3 years. So I was like, how do they do that? They do that because back then, when a mom is pregnant, the husband not supposed to touch him for 2 years because they think they are polluting the milk. If the baby die within the 2 years, you get a beating. We don't put you in jail, just beat you up. All right. So that's the group of men that were equipped to breastfeed. They are father of baby who were breastfed. They didn't know information about breastfeeding, but their wife breastfed. So we recruit them to educate the other father that you can do it too. So while I was doing that, I had a problem. The first person I recruited was from my country, easy. And then I started recruiting African American. Oh boy, that was different. Because they were like, I was raised by my mom. When I was teen, I was to kill myself. I was, what? My father was telling us, get off my house. I didn't want to kill myself. I want to live. They were raised by the mother. And I think all my friends in my mind, I knew from Europe, Congo, they all had a father. All of them. I don't have a friend who grew up with a mom. That was a different paradigm. Okay, why? Why are you thinking that way? Oh, no, mom. Okay, so I'm like, okay, to lead these people, I need to go learn a little bit more about disparity, equity, and things like that. So I went back to school again. I went for one class because they gave me money. They gave me money for summer institute. And you see how they hook you up? You like it, they say, why don't you take another one? I take another one. Before I know it, I got another degree. This is ridiculous. All right, so we talk to men, we make them come as a couple. If you look at that couple, there is someone from Egypt. The other one is from it's a small country in Asia. The other guy, the pink girl, was first-time mom. The man had a 20-year-old, but it was the first time that he will be involved. So they are very excited when you talk to the two of them, because right there they're getting the same information. You're not going home and tell him, oh, the nutritionist told me that. He won't listen to you. So I met this guy. I'm like, he's a professor from Nigeria, of course. He's a dean at St. Louis University now. Explain culture. How do I navigate these people? I have African American, I have this, they don't think differently. How do I put them together? How do I lead them? How do I make them follow me? So what is culture? The reason I find it because he wrote books. So he wrote 2 books. So he said, hey, the problem with culture is we have medicalized the approach to public health. So when you go to the doctor because you're sick, not because you are healthy. Second, you don't want to go to the doctor. You go because it's hurting. The doctor doesn't want to see you either. You don't want to see them, but you go there anyway. But public health is more proactive. We want to prevent things beforehand so you don't go to the doctor, like I was trying to do agriculture so my father won't have patients. Now, you see, the reason is that every culture has something positive. There is something positive in the African American community. If you find something that is positive, that's why you build it on. You always look for something positive first. You don't tell them, oh, you don't breastfeed, or you're a single parent house. That's negative. You focus on what is positive. Could be they don't smoke. African American don't smoke in the house, for instance. You find what is positive, and you build it on it to create something else. They will listen to you. Once you focus on the positive and you're honest and humble about it, something else will come. It's called perception, enabler, and idea. What is happening in the mind for them to act the way they act? And then the third thing, you intervene. Because you know what is in the mind. You know if you're going to talk to the person, to the father, or to the neighborhood. Like Sherry's sleeping, but she's doing. She's like... Why I mention humility? I mention humility because I want you to look at me with humility so you say, oh, why is it that way? If you approach somebody with humility, you will find what they have something to give you. When they talk about culture, they talk about culture, competency. Competency, I don't like it because competency ends, you know. I graduate, I finish. I'm an MPH, I finish. But I didn't know everything. I keep learning. But humility will make you keep learning. That's why I keep going to school, because I don't know. I ask my neighbor, he doesn't know, so I go to school. He doesn't give you the knowledge, he gives me the methods to think. So it's a lifelong, that's the only words thing I'm going to tell you. It's a lifelong journey. You see people with for who they are, where they are, and then you are humble. You want to learn from them. And if you are honest about it, they will share with you. Yeah, I don't say become African American, stay unique, but know that you can be together. That's kind of a logo of humility. That's also the university, which means universe, but there is more diversity in university. If you go to university, it's all white, it's not a university no more. Make sense? Oh, I was published. Maybe that's why they called me to talk to you, because when you publish, you're like a big shot, right? Now, we are the fourth generation of disparity. The first generation was in 2000 when they say, okay, there is a problem. Now they know, they know what's the problem. They can explain the problem. Now the second generation. Now we are where we can really start doing intervention. That's why you're here. We are already the third generation. We already know what to do. Now we want to upscale it. So you have a first generation, take action is now. That's why you have breastfeeding is cooking. You get money. We are at the time to take action. We're not at the time to think about is it working, is not working. We're at the fourth generation already of equity. We just need to apply that. So I'm almost finished. I have 1 minute. So we are in a world when it's getting smaller and smaller. So you have to learn how to connect. You have to learn how to ask questions. So it's like a big web, but that web works because that spider doesn't fall down. So think about connection. Think about Ebola. It started in Africa. Ebola comes from my country. It means spoil. You would think it was something remote, and then before you know it, we got in Dallas. So we have to connect the both world. We cannot say CDC. CDC is not an American thing. CDC is 911 for the world. Because they get money, not only for the United States, they get money for the other country too, because they got the infrastructure to do the research. So when Nigeria or whatever call 911, Ebola, we have to connect at a different level. Okay, now I think my time is up. I will finish with this quote, which is, the greatest glory in living lies is never falling, but rising every time you fall. You're going to go in the clinic, you're going to fail. You're going to fail again, but keep trying, keep learning, keep getting degrees if you want to. But this is me. I'm a runner. As a runner, the most important thing is the finish line. And I still breathe. My knee is working. It hurts, but I'm going to finish the race. You have to finish the race. That's why you're here. So connect, be humble, and finish your race. I talk too much. There is no question, I hope. It's all right. Talk to me.